Thanks for coming to Castlehead, Tim. So, first question. What do you think of Castlehead, its facilities and the opportunities it provides?
So I've been to Castlehead before. I've been the MP for Castlehead for nearly 20 years, so it's probably my 6th or 7th visit, but it's my first for 2 or 3 years. Tremendous facilities. I think we think about the outdoor education sector, and in particular the Field Studies Council looks particularly at subject-specific outdoor experiences for young people, but obviously what I've seen today is something which is much more, in a very good way, generic about dealing with building teamwork, leadership skills, people being reliant upon one another, stepping out of their comfort zone. So it's a wonderful place. Even when the weather's terrible, it's still a glorious place. You're just on the edge of Morecambe Bay, the Kent Estuary here. You can see Arnside on the other side. Feels like you can walk across. It's not safe to do so. But it's a beautiful place and a really historic place as well. It's not purpose-built. That's part of its charm.
Next question. What role do centres such as this one have in our education system?
So the outdoor education that I had as a young person at school up until 16, I'm not sure if it was a Field Studies Centre or not, but it was geography, it was subject related. It was only when I went to 6th form I went off on a we'll call a generic outdoor education residential experience, which is all about team building and what have you. So I think that what obviously to be able to do, if you're doing a biology or geography or geology related course of study, then being here physically in the space is of enormous value to you. But I think my great passion for outdoor education goes beyond that, which is that it recognises that what is done here, and in other outdoor education centres as well, is about building resilience for young people, helping people to work with one another, socialisation skills, stuff that you can't put a price on, and which then makes young people much more equipped to go and learn in a more conventional setting afterwards. I mean, one stat I read recently is that a young person in a class, a child in a class, who does a residential for 4 days, let's say, with their teacher, will build the same amount of rapport in one short week than they would with that teacher over a whole year, and they're different otherwise. So what does that mean for that child and that teacher the next Monday when they're back in class doing maths or English or what have you? That child is that much more likely to listen and learn. So the fact that's just one, but there's so much value to outdoor education, and I feel it's been a thing for a variety of reasons we have undervalued for a couple of generations.
The recent Generation Green scheme we've had, it's allowed groups from a wide range of economic backgrounds to come visit us here at Castlehead. And how important do you think that access is?
Well, if you looked at the young people who don't take advantage of outdoor education experiences, it's disproportionately kids from poorer backgrounds. Not only, there's a whole bunch of reasons why young people don't take advantage of the opportunities that are available here and elsewhere, but undoubtedly that's part of it. And it's about financial cost. It's about often living in parts of the country that don't even think about the countryside. So the value is enormous. Obviously people will become more environmentally responsible citizens as they grow up if they've encountered nature through this sort of experience. But also, depending on their age, but young people will have an experience at a place like this, and they might live in the middle of Manchester or in London or wherever. And if they get the bug, they'll then make their own choices. They might nag their parents to take them to the countryside at the weekend, because most of us will never do anything that we've not imagined ourselves doing in the first place. And if you've come to a place like this, your imagination opens up, and the thought that this is somewhere special, somewhere peaceful, exhilarating, somewhere in a good way, a bit dangerous, you're taking risks, good risks, important risks that builds your resilience. And you're not going to make those choices yourself if you've not been introduced by this sort of means.
So the Generation Green funding has now ended. What could the government do now to allow those schools and those kids to revisit areas of the countryside?
The danger is in politics, spend all your time asking for chunks of money. And you think, the government's only got so much. The reality is, if you spend money on so you talk about Generation Green, you talk about the other projects that are about getting young people who wouldn't otherwise take part in outdoor education activities and experience the outdoors, to allow them to do that. What's the benefit? If you don't do it, okay, you save some money. If you do it, it costs you some money. But what's the value down the line? The value is rounded people who are much less likely to, frankly, need mental health services as they get through their teenage years and later in life. Much more likely to reach their potential and be higher earners and pay more tax. I mean, the motivations, I hope, for me are a bit more kind of compassionate than that, but those are still important. So we're talking relatively small sums of money that we're asking for here to continue things like Generation Green, but other things as well. They are absolutely worth it when you think of what it prevents later down the line as people enter their teens and Appleford.
Okay, and as a bonus question, what would you say to some of those kids who had never visited Cumbria or the Lake District before, and that their visit to Castlehead was their first visit to the countryside?
Well, I hope they enjoyed it, but I also think, and you've come back, it's a beautiful part of the world, we'd love to see you again. I think it is that, I suppose, ask yourself the question, what did you benefit? How did you gain from all this? And hopefully what people have got from it is that they will have developed a closer, deeper friendship with their friends. Because what they've done, they've had to rely upon them. We've just been outside with children in the early part of their primary school journey, and they've had to hold ropes for one another and make sure hold cups of water to stop them falling off logs and all the rest of it. So you have to rely on other people, and you have to be relied upon yourself, which is that's risk taking in both senses. But it's a wonderful thing for developing your personal skills, as I say, deepening your friendship, but also your relationship with your teachers, who you see in a slightly different light. So I think that I suppose my what I'd say to people who are packing up and going from a time at the Field Study Centre here at Castlehead or anywhere else is come back here, but now make your own adventures. For totally understandable reasons, for the last 30 or 40 years, I think we've seen young people so protected, and then more recently isolated from one another because of social media, really. But before then, sort of protected because of we're a very risk-averse society. We've actually done young people harm in the process. That they've lost resilience, they've lost the love of the outdoors, and if you get the bug whilst you're here for 4 or 5 days, then you'll make your own choices the rest of your life, and that will include coming back and spending time in the outdoors, whether it's some activity you do, climbing, caving, walking, running, cycling, whatever it is you might do, kayaking, or maybe just being in a nice, beautiful space. All the evidence of what being in the outdoors does for your physical and mental well-being is overwhelming, and it's worth the investment. So yeah, well done for doing a couple of days here. Come back.